Hi, I'm Gary Brummond, licensed private investigator and credit expert. And today I'm here to talk to you about the 5 strategies to increase your credit scores.